Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam from Historic Travels and welcome to another video. Okay guys, so hey, one thing that I absolutely love to do on my spare time is look at footage coming from famous shipwrecks, where dive teams go down to these wrecks and film what they see. And this could be any shipwreck, the Titanic, the Lusitania, the Empress of Ireland, whatever. It's so cool to see these wrecks as they exist today at the bottom of the ocean. But when I'm looking at this footage, one thing that I always wish is and before I say it, I know how this is going to sound, but I wish the wrecks were in better condition. I wish that by looking at these wrecks, we could see more of what the ship looked like pre-sinking. But usually these wrecks are in such horrible condition that all we can see is a shadow or a fragment of what these ships looked like before they went down. Let's take a look at the Titanic, for example. Very few rooms on the Titanic today fully resemble what they did before the ship sank. One room that is in remarkable good condition is the Turkish bath. This room really does resemble what it looked like pre-sinking, but that's because of the materials the Turkish bath was made out of. But other iconic rooms on the Titanic, like the Grand Staircase, the Navigation Bridge, the Wheelhouse, the reception room, the first class lounge, most of the first class dining room, all of these spaces are completely destroyed or almost completely destroyed. And only fragments of what these rooms looked like pre-sinking remain. In the reception room, we do have those lead glass windows. They're still there, but most of the room is gone. That's my point. And I wish that these rooms were in better condition because it would help us get a better understanding of what the Titanic looked like pre-sinking, we have ideas, of course, but remember, the Titanic wasn't that well photographed. So some of the stuff that we know about the ship is best guess, and that's just all there is to it. But in the back of my mind, I was always thinking about this one thing. I'm like, what if there was another shipwreck that was in much better condition than Titanic? And maybe by studying that shipwreck, it would help us get a better idea as to what the Titanic looked like pre-sinking. And I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. So the wreck that I'm talking about is the Titanic's very own sister ship, the HMHS BRITANNIC. Yes, you heard me right. The Titanic did have another sister ship that sank, the Britannic, and this ship was serving as a hospital ship during World War I when it struck a mine and sank off the coast of the island of Kea. Now, the thing about Britannic and the reason why this ship is such a great candidate to study in order to learn more about the Titanic is, well, the Britannic and the Titanic, they did have some differences, based on how they were built and all that. Most of the changes done to Britannic were as a result of the Titanic going down. But a lot of spaces within the Britannic are the same as Titanic. And the Britannic is in way better condition than Titanic. You see, the waters where the Britannic sank, they're only about 400 feet deep, not 2.5 miles like what we have at Titanic. So Britannic is accessible to divers. Granted, divers with a lot of training and the proper equipment, because 400 feet is very deep for diving, but my point is the Britannic is accessible. Now, the photos you see on screen right now are actual photos of the wreck of the HMHS Britannic. And I'm sure the first thing you'll notice when you compare the Britannic to the Titanic wreck is the fact that the Britannic is laying on its starboard side. This is because during the final stages of the sinking of Britannic, the ship rolled over to starboard as she went down. But besides that, I'm sure you'll notice that the Britannic is in a remarkable state of preservation. The ship still clearly looks like the Britannic, it's incredible how good of condition the Britannic is in. Clearly recognizable. Now, the biggest part of structural damage to the Britannic wreck is this giant crack that formed around the area of the forward well deck. This giant crack formed because as the Britannic's bow hit the bottom of the ocean, the back of the ship was still sticking up above the surface. You see, the Britannic was actually longer than the ocean was deep here in this area of the water. So when the bow hit the bottom, the stern was still sticking up above the surface, and as it fell, it put a lot of strain on that part of the Britannic itself, and that giant crack formed around the area of the forward well deck. That's why it's there. But yeah, besides that, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Now, when I was looking at footage from the Britannic, the one thing that I noticed when studying it was that there wasn't a lot of footage from inside of the wreck. Because I couldn't help but shake the suspicion that if the exterior of the Britannic looked this good, what does the interior look like? I would love to be able to get inside of the Britannic itself and take a look around. Because, if the interior spaces are as in good of condition as the outside is, Is the grand staircase still intact? Is the radio room still intact? What's going on down in the boiler rooms, the engine room? Like, can we still see these spaces? By studying the interior of the Britannic, it could help us learn so much about how these Olympic class liners were built. However, unfortunately, that's easier said than done. So the first hazard you have to contend with whenever you want to dive Britannic is the fact that it is 400 feet down. And that is way too deep for you just to go down there with conventional diving equipment like an oxygen tank and stuff. You have to go down there with a mixture of other gases to breathe, because anything below, I think it's like 100 or 150 feet deep, you are liable to get oxygen toxicity. Oxygen becomes toxic at a certain depth. So you have to have a mixture of other gases to deal with that. So yeah, that's hazard number one. The second thing you have to deal with is decompression. When you go down 400 feet deep due to the pressure and the gases you're breathing, you can't just come straight up. You have to allow your body time to decompress due to the pressure differences. So while it may take you 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to dive down 400 feet to get to Britannic, it takes several hours for you to slowly come up. Like, you have to come up, then wait for your body to adjust to the pressure. You have to come up a little bit more and wait for your body to adjust to the pressure, and so on and so forth. And if you just come straight up, well, due to the pressure and all the gases you're breathing, you are liable to get a condition called the bends. It's basically where these bubbles form in your blood, and if you come up too fast, they can stop your heart, damage your other organs, and yeah, it's very bad. So you don't want to just come straight up under this kind of situation. The other big hazard that we have to contend with when diving Britannic is the fact that the Britannic is lying on its starboard side. Because of this, exploring the interior spaces of the wreck can be extremely disorienting. It's disorienting enough exploring the Titanic with ROVs. If they didn't have that tether to help them guide the ROVs back to the submersibles that are waiting outside, you could easily lose an ROV inside the Titanic. And the other big thing is, when you're looking around inside of a wreck, it's very easy to stir up like sediment and all this crap that's laying around inside of the wreck. And when you do that, it can really, really mess with the visibility. I believe there was a dive attempt to get into Britannic's boiler rooms back, like, I forget exactly what year it happened. It might have been like in the late 90s or the early 2000s. Just correct me in the comments below if you know exactly when. But there was a guy trying to reach one of the Britannic's watertight doors to see if they had actually closed or not. That's one of the big things that people talk about when talking about the sinking of the Britannic, if all the watertight doors were closed. And anyway, while he was in the boiler room, something happened. I guess he nicked something with his suit or whatever, but he knocked down an old wheelbarrow that was used to move coal around in the boiler rooms. And anyway, it fell and it hit some of his breathing equipment. And I believe he started to breathe like pure helium or something. It was really, really bad. And he had to call for a mayday. And by some miracle, they got him out of there. It was just, but yeah, he almost died trying to get inside of, trying to access deep into the Britannic's interior. So yeah, as you can see, it's incredibly hazardous to get inside of the Britannic and look around, or any shipwreck for that matter. Now, despite all of these hazards, that hasn't stopped divers from wanting to attempt to take a look around inside of the Britannic's interior spaces. Divers want to do this kind of thing all the time. But now, here's where the other issue comes into play. And that would be the political aspect of trying to look around inside of the Britannic's interior. You see, where the Britannic did sink during World War I, and there were lives lost in the sinking, the Britannic was, for a while, classified as a war grave. It no longer is, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. So because of that, there were all of these rules and regulations that you had to follow when you wanted to explore the wreck of the Britannic, or dive it, I guess I should say. Now, the big thing that you had to do back then, if you wanted to dive the wreck, was you basically had to pay a bond to the Greek government. And I believe they wanted around 20,000 euros just to have you have the privilege to go around and dive the Britannic. But there were also very strict rules that you had to follow besides just paying this outrageous sum of money. And rule number one, you are not allowed to go inside the Britannic at all. You cannot. You cannot go inside of the wreck. You are also not allowed to recover anything from the Britannic itself. Now, you were allowed to swim through the promenade deck, but that was an open space. So yeah, that was like as far into the ship's interior, so to speak, that you were allowed to go. And as long as you went to the wreck, obeyed all of these rules, when you came back up, you got your money back. So it was basically like a way to guarantee that you would follow the rules or something. Think of the 20,000 euro bond as similar to paying a bond whenever you get out of jail just to prove that you'll show up in court. It's basically the same thing. Now, while this may come as quite a surprise to a lot of you, the wreck of the Britannic is no longer considered to be a war grave. And this is because nobody went down with the ship. There were lives lost in the sinking of the Britannic, but this wasn't due to the sinking itself. The lives lost during the sinking of the Britannic was due to some of the crew members panicking while Captain Bartlett was trying to beach the ship. They launched a few lifeboats without the captain's permission, and these lifeboats got sucked into the Britannic's still spinning propellers. And they chopped up some people and injured others, and yeah, around 30 people died due to this panicking of the ship's crew. But because nobody went down with the ship, because no one actually died as a result of the mine detonation or the ship sinking itself, like going down with the ship, Britannic is no longer considered to be a war grave. So this did lighten up some regulations when it came to diving the wreck of the Britannic. Now, the Britannic itself is owned partially by the Greek government, but it's also privately owned by a man by the name of Simon Mills. And Simon Mills did this incredible book on the sinking of the Britannic, and this book is the inspiration for this video. You see, Simon Mills was also extremely curious about what the interior spaces of the Britannic looked like. So what he did was he worked with the Greek government, because even though Simon Mills does own the wreck is still in Greek waters, so it is still subject to their laws, and they also own the wreck. So it's kind of like a co-ownership kind of thing, I guess. It's kind of complicated. And even though I studied it, it's still kind of confusing. But anyway, the bottom line is the Greek government acknowledges that Simon Mills does have specific rights when it comes to the wreck of the Britannic. So what he did was he negotiated with them to get a special team together to be able to go and dive and try to fully document the interior spaces of the Britannic. And they also wanted to recover some artifacts that they could put on display in museums and study and so on and so forth. And after I don't know how long, they were actually given the green light to do this. They got an advanced team of divers together to go around and explore the interior of the Britannic, and they made several dives to the wreck over a period of a few years. And guys, the photos and video they brought back are absolutely unbelievable. It basically confirmed everything that I was suspicious about for years. The photo you see on screen right now, this is the Britannic's grand staircase. Now, granted, it has been flipped because the Britannic is on its side. But yeah, look at that. You can see the frame from where the stairs once were. You can see some of the support beams. You can see the boat deck level, the A deck level. I mean, all of that is still there. The outline for the windows, it's incredible. And we're taking a look at some of these other spaces now, like this corridor you see, like this is Scotland Road. Like, that's incredible to see, and it's still intact. We've also got like some of these other interior spaces. And I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts to see how good of condition it is. Like, take a look right here. You see this sign where it says Harland and Wolff, Belfast, Glasgow. All of that is still there. Now, these photos you see right here, these are of the Turkish bath, because they were curious about if the Turkish bath on Britannic was similar to that on Titanic. So they got in there and took a look around, and they said that was incredibly challenging because of the depth requirements. And I always thought this photo was kind of funny. Like, you can see all of these toilets side by side like that. Now, I would hope that they had stalls or little booths there so you weren't sitting directly beside your neighbor when you guys were doing your business. That would be incredibly awkward. Imagine a bunch of people just sitting there side by side taking their doing their business, and there's no walls or barriers there. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, like look right here, you can see these tiles on the ground, they're still intact. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts to see how good of condition the Britannic is in just from these photos. And anyway, I'm going to do a more detailed look on the Britannic's interior and talk more about this incredible expedition to check out the interior spaces of Britannic. But yeah, I kind of wanted to give you guys this real quick little overview of the interior spaces of the Britannic and show you guys some of these incredible photos. And now the guys that did this, they did some podcasts where they were interviewed, where they were talking about these dives. And I am going to share a link to those in the description below if you would like to watch those. I highly recommend you do. They are an incredible watch. And I think this photo is very, very funny. These are all a bunch of beer bottles that they found at the bottom of the ocean. So apparently there was a party on Britannic before she sank. Very interesting. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's all I've really got for you in today's video. It's a very cool thing to see, and I'm very glad that they did this, and I can't wait to study this in more detail, and I will have more follow-up videos for you. But yeah, all right, guys, well, hey, that's it for today's video. Be sure to leave it a like. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much. It really helps out a lot, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.